How is everybody today? All right, just get set up here. Perfect. I am live. Okay, hey Steve, how you doing? All right, so good evening. You are watching Uncharted Case Files, episode number 12, live from Ontario, Canada, with yours truly, Ryan Stacey. I'm the Assistant Chief Investigator for MUFON Canada, the Provincial Director and Chief Investigator for the Province of Ontario, and I am the Field Investigator Trainer for Canada, MUFON Canada. I also investigate everything paranormal. I believe they're all connected, but more specifically that there's a solid connection between shadow figures and extraterrestrial abductions. Today is Thursday, December 6th, 2018, and it is 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And to date, I have officially completed 498 MUFON Canadian investigations, which includes 0 in the last 7 days. I'm sorry, I've been busy, but I do have 9 cases in progress. All right, I'm so close to getting 500, but it's coming. So I will have 500 done next week. So tonight I'll be talking about 7 new reported cases, more gear. I'm going to break down some actual gear. Last week I showed some gear, but I took them out of the boxes. And I'm going to talk about cryptids and time travel. So if you're watching this live, please share so others can see. Don't forget to like and follow my page so I can see your comments. If you're listening to this on Spreaker or not Twitch, what's the other one? There's another iTunes, wherever you're listening to me, you want to come to my Facebook page, heedtheworld.com. Facebook.com/heedtheworld, so you can actually see the images that I'm talking about. Okay, so hello, Lisa. Hello, Stephen. Hello, Priscilla. Hello, Dan. Dan Jones, Field Investigator, Ontario. Dan, I assigned you a case today. I hope you got it. Let me know if you got it. It's actually pretty interesting, and I think I'm going to show it tonight after the video. I don't know. But, yeah, welcome. All right, so first thing I want to talk about today, just give you guys an update. So December's article is out for Suspicious Times. So if you go to suspicioustimes.com, you're welcome, Dan. What I did here is I talked about my first case called The Never Ending Rabbit Hole, and I dive into my first cold case that made the first connection between paranormal and alien activity. So you might want to check that out. There's a link there. What else want to talk about? Yeah, okay. So I want to dive right into the cases right now, and then I'll talk about the other stuff in the back end here, if that's okay. Or maybe we'll go back and forth. All right, let's go. Because the equipment part is going to be really neat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the cases, then I'm going to talk about my couple updates, and then I'm going to show you some equipment tests, which is actually pretty cool. So here we go. Okay. So this case here, this report was reported to me via email. I do not have the original photo. I was told that this is the only photo that the witness has. I do not have a description of the scenario. However, I'm waiting for it. So right now, currently, this seems to be the object in question. So I really don't have much data to work with right now, but I'm hoping to get more information. And if it's worthy of an unknown or the database, whatnot, I'll submit it, and they'll have more information there. But off of, without the original photo, I'm just going to have to listen to the story and go from there. But I am interested in what you guys might think this object is. All right. Give you some time to check in there. do this. I believe this. I do not have the location of this either, so I do apologize. So we're going to put that in there. This one here, Stephen, you're on here. So, and he is the reason why we're going to talk about cryptids tonight. He has given me an explanation that while he was hunting, or not hunting, he was camping with his dad. And you have to forgive me, Steve, I don't remember exactly verbatim where the X's, which X's meant what. One of these X's signified where they were. The other, I believe, is this one here, signified where they saw a moose, and this one up here was where he saw this big-like figure, Bigfoot-like figure. Brad says looks like a big ship. You know what, Brad? It could be a ship. You know, you never know. It could be. So yeah, so Steve, if you wouldn't mind putting a brief explanation in the chat, since you're on. But Steve and his dad saw this while they were out and about. And you know, and Steve believes in yeah, middle was moose, there we go. Bottom was the creature. Okay, so bottom was the creature. Let's go back. So bottom was the creature, here's the moose, and this is where they were. So while camping, him and his father witnessed something that looked like this, walking through the woods. Does look humanoid, but you know, then we got to get into the Bigfoot and cryptid theories, right? So let's jump right into that. Hello, Bob Lazar, aka Ed. That's not the real Bob Lazar, everybody. And if it is, I'm going to talk about your little show tonight. So we'll go from there. But yeah, okay. So cryptids. So the idea of cryptids is basically the idea of animals existing in questionable circumstances. So the idea of Bigfoot is classified under cryptid or cryptozoology because the descriptions of the creature is like a man-like monster or ape-like mythological being. And yeah, I knew I snuffed you out as soon as you asked for the request there. Anyways, so apart from aliens and UFOs and all that other stuff, I am interested in anything that is bizarre. So the idea of Bigfoot existing is possible. There are many sightings. However, big question is whether or not that is a species of being that we have here on Earth, or if it's something extraterrestrial. And the interesting connection that before I get into that, so the reason why I'm talking about that is because I do think that, and I know that Stephen believes that, okay, here's his explanation here. We were camping and a moose came out to eat. We noticed a black blob at the bottom of the lake, and when the moose left, the black figure stand up, walked on two legs after it. So that's the explanation for that. Thank you, Stephen. So, you know, after talking to Stephen for a little bit, you know, he's come to the conclusion, or he believes that it may be a Bigfoot-like creature. What are your theories and thoughts on Bigfoot? Anyone want to chime in on that? So there also is a list of different types of cryptids here that I wanted to show. And basically, these are just bizarre. Right on. Biologist. Cool. So as a biologist, you know, like some of these bizarre creatures that I'm looking at there, Ed, Do you believe that it's possible for these mutations or these bizarre beings to exist? For you guys listening to this on iTunes, I'm reading the chat right now. So what's interesting, I find, with cryptid theories is that a lot of these things appear to me to be some sort of genetic mutations. And we see genetic mutation or evidence of that in Roman and Greek mythology, even Sumerian mythology. And basically, Zechariah Sitchin explains it pretty well by saying that the abominations or these hybrid creatures that we see are failed attempts of experiments trying to mix species together. Bob Lazar says, not Bob Lazar, Ed says, many of these creatures can be real, but they have to be very hidden and have a few hundred individuals. I think some of the weird ones may be coming from portals, maybe from the Unitha Basin. So portals is interesting because I'm gonna touch base on that in a second. So with the mythology, when you have the Minotaur is famous for the Greek mythology, right? Which is what do you call it? A cow head, I guess, a bull head, that's it, right? And a male body. And in some situations, that's considered mythology. However, if you were to apply a practical sense to that, maybe what they were trying to do, the ancient ones were trying to mix bull genes with human genes or vice versa. And then that was that image or that creature was a result of a science experiment gone wrong. Question is, why are they doing that? Well, there's evidence with government conspiracies, or not evidence of government, pardon me. There's been secret government programs alleged that testing mutations and stuff like that. Like it's been believed that some experiments have been trying to take the echo sonar location ability from dolphins and trying to apply that to man. And of course, there's genetic mutations that happen. There's problems that happen. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. That we know of. So the idea of mixing genes together to get a better result is possible, even way back then. So Bigfoot, in my opinion, could be just that, a creature created, specifically designed by mixing two species together. Dan Jones says, I think ET has been experimenting with hybrid life forms on Earth for millions of years, and that is quite possible. And why not? If you believe, unless you're Darwin, but if you're not an evolutionist and you believe that we were created, a creationist, we could be those hybrid life forms that Dan had just mentioned. It's very quite possible. Now, I do reference Sumeria and Zechariah Sitchin a lot. Zechariah Sitchin is the one who wrote the books, the 12th planet, the Earth Chronicles, and he talks in great detail about the Sumerian and Anunnaki. He's not the only one. However, he's got the most information that I've come across to that I can reference to. And in the second book, Stairway to Heaven, I believe. Before we get into that, sorry, Ed says the oldest cave painting have a minotaur in them. The movie The Cave of Forgotten Dreams is about this cave. The painting are in France and drawings are 30,000 years old. Okay, so that's evidence, that suggests that experimentation or genetic mutation has been happening for at least 30,000 years, according to that testimony. So anyways, so in the second book of Zechariah Sitchin's novels, let's actually search it. The Stairway to Heaven, Earth. Yeah, this book right here. So this is actually the same book that I was reading when we were in Cuba. And in this book, Zechariah Sitchin talks about the Epic of Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh was a king who was fighting and effortlessly trying to find the fountain of youth, because he was the king who refused to die, and he was always searching. But the interesting thing with his story is that his adventure wasn't done alone. In the Epic of Gilgamesh, it actually talks about him encountering some sort of robotic-like creature that has lasers. You have to read it, and it goes in great detail. But his companion, his trusty sidekick, is called Enkidu. Right here in the Epic of Gilgamesh, okay? And Enkidu. So there's a picture. This might be Gilgamesh. No, that's Enkidu. Pardon me. Yeah, so here are the two of them together. So Gilgamesh is described here, or depicted here in this image, quite large because he's arm wrestling a lion. But Enkidu is this guy here on the left. And the description of Enkidu is very, very similar to the Bigfoot. It is a hairy, beast-like man that was Enkidu's companion. Unless you know the Epic of Gilgamesh and the complete story, I don't want to really spoil it. But if you do read or learn about the entire saga, this creature was sent from the heavens, so from Enlil, which is the god of the sky, down to Gilgamesh to assist him in finding the Shemesh. It's been a long time since I've had to say these words and use these things, but anyways, you need to read it. But basically, this creature on the left-hand side came from the heavens, was sent down and delivered. And its description reminds me, and it does sound like the Bigfoot. And then there is a lot of theories out there that Bigfoot may be an interdimensional being, or may have come from outer space. And so if extraterrestrials are experimenting with other creatures to create these hybrids, then that theory or this explanation kind of fits. And then it also goes in with the Adam and Eve creation story and whatnot too, because God, there's a whole bunch. We're in a rabbit hole here. But essentially, what I wanted to point out here is that this is the original Bigfoot story. And you should look it up. And as you do, the Bigfoot sightings that we see today, if that still happens in many different locations or whatnot, could be evolution of Enkidu. So that's a fun fact on that stuff there. So I just wanted to share that with you. Sumerian tales are absolutely phenomenal compared to heavens and like aliens and ancient it's absolutely beautiful. So okay, MUFON Canada. Let's get into it. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cases that were reported. All right. And and thank you, Stephen, so much for talking to me about that. You can talk about it some more offline as well. I will have a section of cryptids in my book that kind of explains what I just kind of blurted out here in more detail with links and references. But if you want to report anything bizarre, vampires, werewolves, theories, I love the lore, the legends. I like to understand the concept or of where that idea had stemmed from, right? So a big hairy man today seems strange in today's society, but if you go back and put that in a advanced civilization where that stuff happened all the time, it's not so weird, right? Well, I think even look at David and Goliath. Goliath had 6 toes, 6 fingers, right? Or maybe it was 9. I can't remember. Dan Jones says, so much ancient text of accounts of giants coming from the sky. Exactly. The book of Genesis, right? Mentions, what did it say exactly? They came from the heavens and made it with our daughters or something. I don't have to look that up. But in the book of Genesis, I think the 2nd chapter, it talks about the Anunnaki or the Elohim. Giants. It's possible. And if you look at lizards today, like dinosaurs, like, I mean, like, there's tons and tons and tons. Now, just because it's out there, what does it mean? That's the thing, right? Spiritual connection or alien connection is one thing, but seeing it is nice because there's evidence. Like, to capture something like this, that's a whole different ball game. But anyways, let's get into the cases here. So 96701. Let me just pull up the report here. So I have two videos here. This is the video on the right is the one that was submitted. The video on the left is the original video because this one had submitted video had text on it displaying or emphasizing on where the object was. So I'm going to play that one for you, but I have the original that I'm going to do the analysis with, which I haven't done yet. The short description is a stationary bright light later had bright red beam below it. And it was reported November 30th, 2018, and it's in Richmond Hill, Ontario. So I didn't realize that there was an overlay. Sometimes I watch these videos with no sound. Okay, here we go. So for you guys listening, what you're seeing is a very bright, large object in the sky, just above the city lights. And I've already checked Stellarium, and that is not the moon. So that is a pretty large, significant object. I'm still in the middle of trying to figure out what that is. If you guys have any suggestions or have seen this before, please put your comments below. That is currently one of my cases that I am working on. That's in progress. Next one I'd like to share with you guys, 96733. This one was reported December 2nd in Ontario. I don't have the exact location yet. So it's described as a bright orb shining with many lights, moves while changing altitude and various speeds. There were 3 planes nearby. I'm sure one of them at least noticed. So I'll play this video for you here. So now what's interesting about this is that the size seems almost similar to the same size as the previous video. The dates on these two events are 2 to 3 days apart. I haven't pulled the metadata yet to compare to see if the dates are accurate. But the location, I believe that the distance, or sorry, not the distance, the direction of these objects are the same. So this is still under investigation currently. For you guys listening on iTunes and Spreaker, there is a large white orb traveling right to left just above a tree line. Remember, come to facebook.com/heedtheworld to see these videos. Okay. So like those are two substantially looking orbs. What I like with the video evidence is like that's something. That is definitely something. It's too bright to be a plane. But I mean, it could be. Dan, have you seen anything like this in your investigations at all? 96779. So the next case, this one is in Quebec. It's being investigated by our team in Quebec, and it was reported the 19th of February, 2016. That's actually Priscilla and I's anniversary. So what's the description here? It's French. I don't know what it is. So I'm going to show it though. But anyways, this is a very interesting photo, okay? So you guys listening, you're going to want to see this. I'm going to try and explain it to you. This is some sort of an impression. This individual believes that they may have been taken or abducted. and this imprint was left on them. And as you can tell, that this is a scab. This does appear to be some sort of scabbing. It is symmetrical, it is geometric, it is strange, it is unusual, it looks like a device or some sort of apparatus was placed on this individual. I am so jealous that I am not able to investigate this one. However, I am watching it closely. So Team Quebec, if you are watching this on the replay, please keep me in the loop. All right. 96779. All right. So what do you guys think this is? Very weird. Very weird. 96791. So this next case, right? Yeah, Dan, sorry. So Dan asked if I was asking him something because he said I was breaking up. What I was asking is in those two orb videos, if you've encountered anything similar to that, in your investigations. Ed, aka the non-real Bob Lazar, says it looks like it might be scarification similar to a tattoo. You know what? That is possible. However, that's up to Team Quebec to find out. It could be. And that would be an elaborate hoax. Okay, so this next video here, 96791. This is the case that I assigned to you, Dan. Two linked orbs flashing blue in the sky. There's two videos, but I'm only going to show you the one because this one's pretty interesting. So there's 3 orbs this week, which is strange. This is also the 2nd of December. So the second video will show this object move a little bit more. Now the interesting thing I will tell you is that this double circle here is typically a single light source, and this is just like a refraction. However, we need to find out where the location is and what's actually in the dark here. So a daytime photo would be very beneficial. 96825. 96825 is the next case. Dan Jones says, I've had some great orb video lately, very similar. Priscilla says, can we zoom into the orb? So let's go back and zoom into that. So what I can do, I will zoom double. Hold on here. So for you guys listening at home and not seeing what I'm doing, I'm taking a screenshot of the video orb so I can zoom it in and show the viewers here. This orb zoomed in. I'm using a program called Photoshop. Photoshop Elements. All right, here's our object. And I am zoomed in. And while we're here, I can do some adjustments. Dan Jones says, doesn't look like starlight refraction though, and that is true. It might not be a star. I do believe that the object is moving in the second video. It was just too large to show here. I do want you to investigate this one. I don't want to figure this out for you live here in the video. It kind of defeats the purpose. But I am curious. Since I have this open, you guys listening, what I'm doing is I'm editing the hue and saturation of the image so that way I can get a crisper idea of what the object is. There is a significant ring. I'm also adjusting the shadows and the darkness, or the highlights, pardon me. So yeah, it's definitely a peculiar object. All right, so 96825 was reported December 5th, so yesterday, in Winnipeg. And it, short description says, 2 unknown objects interact, flash on and off, and one departs and the other one descends. So here's the image, which does no justice. But the object is right here above the power lines. And the video is interesting. Take a look. So you have both objects here in the sky, one on the left, one on the right, and they are moving away from each other. It could be 2 planes, different further distances apart. It's hard to tell because it's dark. But now the objects stop moving and they seem to be stationary. Dan the man, doesn't look that hot. Could be a radiation glow, yes. See, it's got a bit of a twinkle to it. Could be stars. We'd have to slow the video down to find out if both objects had moved or if it was just one, because one could be a plane and the other one could be a star. So team in Manitoba will be checking that one out. All right. So I have no mentionable. Actually, well, the mentionables are on Facebook here, or on the computer here. So those are the cases for this week. Now, what else I want to talk about here is some stuff that's been going on in the news. Not really the news, but we'll talk about cryptids. Recently, I had a case with Chris Dials that he had reported, and I had done some really good work, and I had come to the conclusion that it may have been Altair, a star. However, seeing how reputable Chris Stiles is, I highly doubt that a person of his stature would confuse what he had saw to be a star. Now, the thing is with the report, you have to go back to the last episode number 11, to understand what I'm talking about. Is there Altair was in the sky at the exact same time and location as described by the witness, and the weather conditions and the lighting and the time of the day at the time of the sighting were the correct conditions for you to see this star during the day. And the star is, I think, 10 times the size of the sun. So the phenomenon itself, to see a star during the day, is possible and very, very rare. So even though I believed it to be a star, it is still an unusual event. Now, talking to Chris some more, I sent him a report and asked him, what do you feel about that? He disagrees, rightfully so, because he knows what he has seen. He's been at this a lot longer than I have. So I have a phone call scheduled with Chris next week, and we're going to talk about it together, and we're going to get to the bottom of it together. And what I had learned since closing this case is that the object had disappeared and reappeared right in front of his eyes. So with the weather conditions that I had in my previous analysis of this being a star, doesn't fit if the object did in fact disappear and reappear. So and it is organic and is some sort of refraction. So it's very, very, very interesting. So it is also possible in some cases too to reopen and change the classification. So even though this is currently identified based on the information I had, at any given time, any case could be amended or reclassified if the witness contacts at a later date. Normally, I don't put as much effort into certain cases I put the same amount of effort in all cases, but I don't go above and beyond on certain cases unless there's something of interest. And just for those who don't know who Chris Stiles is, and those guys listening here, I'll just read this out to you. Chris Stiles is a Canadian UFO researcher who has been on national programs such as the Danny Petty Show, CBC News, several episodes of Paramount Television sightings. He's been an active UFO investigator for both classic and current UFO incidents have occurred in Atlantic Canada. He's best known for his work on the Shag Harbor incident in 1967. Chris received a modest research grant in the Washington-based group. Stiles is dedicated to underwater research, so like the list goes on and on. So this man is highly credible, and I was very uncomfortable with giving him that analysis. However, I weighed the probabilities, and there was so many things lined up. And as I said, it was a rare phenomenon, but it's not closed. It's reopened, and if we do decide to classify it as unknown, that is going to end up in the cards. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about for cards, you have to tune into an earlier episode where I am going to place all the best, in my opinion, the best unknowns or unusual images in the playing cards for you guys to play around the round table and discuss. All right. So the other thing I want to talk about is Mr. Bob Lazar. I have not seen Area 51 flying saucers yet. I've been busy. I do plan on seeing it. It is currently number one on iTunes, Amazon Prime, everywhere to be downloaded. There's a huge hype about it. However, I've heard, even though it's got 5 stars here on this image that I'm showing you right now, I've had mixed opinions. I've heard people say pretty much the same thing that I had felt with the Skinwalker Ranch. So Skinwalker Ranch had a huge advertising committee. Like they advertised the hell out of it. It was absolutely phenomenal. It grabbed my attention, grabbed everyone's attention. Everybody wanted to watch it. And then when I watched it, I was disappointed because it was stuff I already knew, or it wasn't too fascinating. However, it was a good documentary on the sense that I became educated on what the ranch story was all about. I feel like this Area 51, because I am pretty familiar with the Bob Lazar story, it's just going to be just that. It's going to be a recap of the things that we already know, but displayed in a very beautiful, documentative and descriptive way. And so that's why I'm not in a rush to see it. So if you guys have seen it, let me know if you share those opinions to see if I'm right before I see it. I will see it, and then I'll give you my real comments on that too. From what I've been told, there's nothing new. It's just the same stuff. But for those who don't know the Bob Lazar story, that would be, be a good video to watch. So I don't want to spoil it for anyone. For you guys watching here, just wanted to kind of give you an idea who Bob is. So Bob Lazar claims to have worked in the 4th section, like Area S4, which is below Area 51, and he worked on a UFO project or engineering and whatnot. So he worked on a UFO at Area S4. So S4 does exist. Apparently, there is Google images and whatnot. So, the thing is, too, see, it's kind of like I never really ranted about To the Stars. So like, to do a hype. So this is the thing is it was a very successful premiere. A lot of people showed up. He sold out, right? Which means Jeremy made a lot of money. George Knapp made a lot of money. Bob Lazar made a lot of money. And a lot of credibility. So these are credible people, investigators and whatnot too. But the thing that rubs me the wrong way about that is not knowing what the intent is. It was the intent to make money, or is the intent to get the word out? I felt the same way with Patient 17. I feel the same way with Skinwalker Ranch, and I'm probably going to feel the same way after seeing Area 51. But I'm still going to pay for it. I'm still going to watch it. It's just kind of like, it just makes me hard. In my opinion, it's really hard for me to swallow this. What's really going on here? Are they all in bed with each other, or all these kind of things? But anyways, that's just my opinion. If you disagree, let me know. I want to know those things too. So another thing too that I thought was very interesting, and maybe that'll be one of my questions, was I was trying to do the blacklight after chat, and the point of that was to engage the audience and ask questions and talk after. But maybe it was too late. But then last Friday, I decided to post on my Facebook page. Ask me anything. Post questions below, right? To my surprise, I had more reaction to that than the chat. So I think I'm going to do that maybe once a week on Friday. I'll ask a question and you guys will chime in, and then I'll talk. So I actually really engaged in conversation with individuals about time travel and cryptids and information like that. So I was really happy with engaging in that conversation. So thank you all for who have participated in that. I am going to continue to ask questions that way. On the time travel aspect, one of the major questions that I was asked was my thoughts on time travel. And in my opinion, I have a hard time believing that we can go back in time. As my beliefs on residual energy and ghosts being past loved ones, it's kind of hard for me to accept that they're stuck in the past. I think that the energy coexists and continues. Everything continues to move forward, and I believe that time can be slowed down. I don't think that it can stop, and I do not believe that it's possible for you to go back and relive these events, because in order to do that, we would have to have done this before. So when you record a video like this video, this is live right now. There's no past. I can't go back. But the only time, so once this video is done, it's going to be loaded for a replay. And then at that point, it's loaded on a database, Facebook or the internet or Spreaker, wherever you're listening to, is now housed. Now you have the ability to go back, rewind, and watch and do things again. You can't really alter or do anything like that. So in order for us to go back in time and see ourselves in the past, for me to understand that, this has to have happened, meaning this is being recorded somewhere, and like the Matrix, right? And it's maybe that's possible. Yeah. So, anyways, that's my thoughts. So I'm gonna ask some questions as I think of them too. And now for the last part, you guys listening are going to be missing this light show here, but I'm going to talk about some equipment. Dan Jones says you have to see it for yourself and then decide. Well, I'm not sure what we're talking about. If we're talking about time travel, but yeah, I guess if I saw it, then yeah, I would go from there. Anyways, last episode I talked about getting new gear. I showed it in the box. I have since opened them and I have played with them a little bit. What I wanted to do was kind of show you them out of the box real quick, and then I want to demonstrate a few objects from before. So that thermal camera that I had, that little tiny little thing, is this little thing, and that gets plugged in to a phone, and it allows you to see thermal imaging. This is designed for home inspections. Firefighters use this to look for hotspots, to make sure the fires are out and everything is safe. The reason why I have it is, as a private investigator, sometimes when I'm spying or observing people or vehicles, sometimes I don't know if they're inside the vehicle. So I need this little guy to at least let me know that there's someone inside, because I can't see in the dark. Now, that is the primary use of this. Now, in the paranormal and investigating things, it also works to see can see in the dark, and I can see heat signatures. So we did talk about going to the Screaming Tunnels in whatchamacallit, St. Catharines. So this will be a handy little tool to find out that, first of all, make sure that we're alone in the tunnel because it's going to be dark. It's also going to make sure that's safe. It could be people living there. And so this is a nice practical tool. And as I mentioned in earlier episodes too, is like I like to use the tool as they're originally intended and then apply that to the investigation. And whatnot too. So the other thing that I got is, this is an illuminator. This was in the box too. So what this does, hey Melissa, my sister-in-law, first time seeing this, don't judge me. Anyways, so what this is an infrared illuminator. So when you're got an infrared camera on and it's pulling the infrared light, you can only see so much. So this will make it brighter. So what you can use this for, and what it's intended for, is to take your CCTV cameras and make them brighter. What I have purchased this for is so that our ghost cams or full spectrum cameras could be brighter in certain control areas. Also, I'm going to build the design mount to put it on there, which I'm going to do some vlogs later to show you these things in motion. Like for an example, this is the trail cam, tiny little guy, which shoots in infrared. So this is meant to be, it's used for game to catch motion going back and forth, right? So basically, this is a motion detected camera, right? It takes stills. It also puts out geographic data. It puts out GPS coordinates. And it also has a temperature. So there's a lot of data that can be recorded for this. This could be used when taking images in a paranormal or haunted location per se, right? Because then we'll have a lot of data if this is triggered without us being in the room. Now, one device on its own is important, is good, but what I like to do is create the experiments and use multiple devices in sequence. So for an example, if the claim is there's an apparition in the hallway, so we have to turn the lights off. So I'll set this motion sensor up in the hallway at the correct times and locations, or the variables. Make sure the variables are right. And I would use this illuminator at the other end of the hall to make sure that it is as bright as possible to catch said object, right? If possible. Now you can go a step or two beyond that, which I will explain in a minute here. I am going to go over time, but that's okay. In a previous episode, I talked about this device. This device here is an RF meter designed to find bugs and hidden cameras. It's a private investigating tool. It's designed to also pick up Wi-Fi signals. Okay, so when this beeps, that's because there's a Wi-Fi tower right behind me, okay? So this is the original EMF meter, but it's not designed for ghosts. It's designed, it also has a compass on it. It's just designed to detect electromagnetic fields. What you see on TV is this. This is called a K2 meter, okay? It does the same thing. It picks up EMF, right, at different frequencies. Unless you see this on Ghost Adventures and all this. This is what they're selling to you. This is $50. This is $80. This does the same thing. Okay, but this has a more sensitive switch on it. This has a sensitive switch, whereas I can control the output. So I'm right in the room. So it's beeping. But if I control the wheel and bring it down so it's almost off, the closer I get to my router, it'll go off. So then I just bring it down. And I can kind of pinpoint the object. It's more direct, okay? With the K2 meter, you can do the same thing, right? But there's no audio cues. You can't control, right? My cat just probably broke something. Anyway, this guy is called the Rook, which is from Ghost Stop. It does the same thing as well. This is a combination of these two devices. It makes noise when it's near an EMF. Okay. So with this, it does the same thing. Okay, it will sound when it has a strong signal. Now, when you do a science experiment, it's always best to test 3 times. Make sure your results are the same or accurate. Mark your variables. So the reason why I have 3 different devices, even though they do the same thing, you do the same thing differently. In an investigation where they're supposed to be, or I'm trying to call out electromagnetic field, I'm going to want all 3 devices on at the same time. Even if I have them here all on at the same time, like one's going off, right? They all have different types of sensitivity. So when you see ghost hunters and all that other stuff, and they test all these objects and whatnot, and they see this thing go off, it's crazy, it's phenomenal. But there's so many variables in there that could explain why this device is going off. What I would always do, and is have these devices all set up in the same room, and if they all go off, then there's your 1, 2, and 3 check, right? And the other thing too is setting up the devices together for certain experiments. So the other thing that I want to talk about too is this guy here. I'm going to leave you with this. This is a laser, a highly sophisticated laser. I need a key to arm it. Okay. And then what it does is a star array, and it's meant to. I'll show you here in the dark. So what it does is it has a sensor on here. I can spin the wheel, and I can change the output of the star array. The design of this is to grid out a room. So when you point this down a hallway, you'll be able to see all 4 corners of the room. You'll be able to see the roof. You'll be able to see the ground, all 4 walls. You'll be able to basically map out the dark. Right? The more dots that I have here, easier it is for me to kind of get a bit of an image. So what I would use this device for is I would set this up in an area where an apparition apparently has passed, or shadow figures, and I would have a video camera set up to capture the same thing. And what we're looking for is some sort of shadow. We're creating a shadow of some sort to actually map out the object. Now, the other interesting thing about this particular device is it's also used to point at stars, but it has a very, I don't know if you can see it with the camera here, but it has a very, 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 very distinct laser. So there's a beam here, as you can see. So what we would do is we would use this as a tripwire too, with a smoke machine. So put smoke machine in the air so we can see this actual laser and see if it gets tripped off. Now, why do I use all these devices? To prove the theory of all these ghosts, right? So when you have an exclamation, when you say you see a shadow figure or you see an apparition, to detect it is one thing, but I want to recreate the environment, and this is part of the debunking. So, but I set a lot of objects up. So a part of that too is a sophisticated tripod. So this tripod, this is the best thing. Okay, so this tripod is actually a clamp. Okay, and it gets set down like this. This clamp here will tighten and hold the laser button down. See how when I tighten it, the laser turns on? Okay. So with that sophisticated and set, right, towards you guys there, okay. So I would point this down the hall. This is always on. I don't need to hold it, okay. Now, from there, I would take my trail cam, or any camera, because I need to actually capture the evidence, and I would attach it to the top, like so. So then I have a direct laser and a direct camera. So if something walks in front of the laser at the same time that the motion sensor is tripped, I will get a picture of the grid as well as the silhouette of the object. With the illuminator attached, I would also have all three of these K2 electromagnetic meters lined up within view of that camera. And if I get a photograph with everything going off at the same time, then that is going to be one hell of a solid piece of evidence. And I will be doing individual videos showing you in great detail how all this stuff works and the theory behind it, and I am going to test it. And the results that I get, I will share those in my book. So anyways, guys, thank you for watching. It's 9 o'clock, 9:01. Keep your eyes in the sky. Thanks for looking up and heed the world, everybody. All right, have a good day. Bye.